When we think about our trash, it's pretty grim. But what if I told you there's a technology, something straight out of science fiction, that could turn all that garbage into clean fuel? Seriously, a way to make landfills a thing of the past. I mean, for decades, really for as long as any of us can remember, we've only had two kind of primitive options for our trash, right? We either burn it or we bury it. One poisons the air, the other poisons the ground. Not exactly elegant solutions. But what if there was a third way? A method that doesn't just burn our problems or bury them, but what if we could simply unmake it, take it apart, piece by piece, right down to the molecules? To get our heads around this, we actually have to look up, way up, to the stars. Because the secret sauce here is something called plasma, the fourth state of matter. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not just solid, liquid, and gas. There's a fourth one, plasma. You get it by blasting a gas with so much energy that its atoms literally get torn apart. Electrons get ripped away, and you're left with this, it's like a super hot soup of charged particles. It's the stuff stars and lightning are made of. And here's the key difference. Think about the air you're breathing right now. That's a gas, full of nice, stable, neutral atoms. Plasma? That's what happens when those atoms get shredded. It becomes this chaotic, electrified storm of particles. Just like the surface of the sun. The incredible thing is, we can actually make this stuff right here on Earth. A plasma torch is basically a device that creates a controlled, sustained lightning bolt. We're talking temperatures up to 15,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the sun's surface. And you can imagine, at that kind of temperature, pretty much nothing survives intact. Okay, so we have this incredibly powerful tool, right? A man-made lightning bolt. How in the world do we use that to get rid of our garbage? Well, let's take a little tour, a virtual walkthrough of a plasma gasification plant. Now, first things first, and this is super important, we are not talking about incineration. This is not just a fancy way of burning stuff. Burning, or incineration, needs oxygen. It's a chemical reaction. What we're talking about here, gasification, happens in a chamber with almost no oxygen. The plasma torch isn't burning the trash. Its intense heat is literally just ripping the molecules apart. So the whole process is basically a 5-step journey. You shred the waste, you feed it into a sealed chamber, then the plasma torches do their thing. They blast it and vaporize all the organic stuff into a gas called syngas. From there, you just clean up that gas, and bingo, you can use it to generate clean energy. It's all contained a totally closed-loop system. But honestly, the coolest part isn't what gets destroyed, it's what gets created. This is where it starts to feel like actual alchemy. Just look at the difference. Landfills, they give you this toxic goo called leachate. Incinerators, they produce hazardous fly ash. Plasma gasification, on the other hand, gives you two things you can actually use. That clean, hydrogen-rich syngas, and this other cool material called slag. And this is where the real elegance of the whole system comes in. See, things like metal and glass, they don't vaporize. They melt down, and when they cool, they form this solid, black, glass-like rock. Any nasty stuff, like heavy metals, gets completely trapped inside that glass matrix. Forever. It can't leach out. It's not waste anymore. It's a raw material for construction. At this point, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds amazing. Why isn't one of these in every single town? And that's a fair question. The answer, as it so often is, boils down to two things: money and engineering challenges. For a long time, the big hurdle was what they call the energy penalty. The first generation plants actually used up more electricity to run the plasma torches than they could generate from the syngas, a total non-starter, right? But technology got better. With modern, super-efficient turbines, that's completely flipped. Now these plants are net energy producers, creating a real surplus. And that surplus is what makes the whole business model work. Suddenly, these plants have two ways to make money. First, cities actually pay them tipping fees just to take their garbage. And second, they sell the electricity and the slag they produce. You're turning a city's biggest expense into a revenue stream. Now, let's be real. The path to get here has been pretty bumpy. There were some really big, high-profile failures, like projects in Ottawa and the UK that just didn't work out. They tried to go too big, too fast, and the tech got too complicated. But we learned from that. The model that's actually working now, especially over in Asia, is to build smaller, more manageable, modular plants. And that really brings us to the future of all this. Because when you look ahead, the most exciting part isn't just getting rid of trash. It's about what this tech can unlock for our future. Forget about generating electricity for a second. That's syngas. It's almost half hydrogen. We can pull that pure hydrogen out and use it to power a hydrogen economy, fuel cell trucks, buses, heavy industry. Think about it. This technology could literally turn our garbage dumps into hydrogen wells. Every city could have its own local source of clean fuel. And that right there, that's the huge shift in thinking we need. It's about seeing our waste completely differently. It's not a burden we need to hide. It's a dense source of chemical energy just sitting there, waiting for us to harvest it. So here's where we land. The physics, it's proven. The technology, it's ready. The engineering problems are being ironed out. The only real question left is us. Do we have the will to stop burying our problems and instead start vaporizing them for good?